Hello and welcome back. Welcome back to our last half hour. Well, my last half hour, no. I'll be with you for 3 half-hour segments starting now. But Jose Felix on my right and Maria Jesus on my left, they will be with you for another half hour. And then I'll have another student, and then I'll be alone, just you and me together, okay, at the end. So wait, because in an hour, it's just you and me. And together, we'll do a lot of things with the English language. But for now, I would like you to listen to me and to listen to my friends, because you learn listening to me, but you also learn listening to my friends, because my friends don't speak perfect English. And they make mistakes. In fact, sometimes they make the perfect mistakes for you to know what to avoid. All right, so you listen to my friends, and they will help you say, Dios mío, yo no puedo hacer eso. All right? So, but I'll introduce them to you again in a moment. But I want to remind you that in the last half hour, we were talking about a friend of mine who lives in China, a good friend of mine, and his name is Li Tong. Li, L-I, Li. I've known him for about 2 years, and he works and lives in Shanghai, the biggest city or the largest city in China, and it's located on the coast, on the Pacific coast, and it's a big commercial, financial, and industrial center, and it's one of the motor forces of the current boom in the Chinese economy. It's incredible. The city is big, bustling is bullicioso, and quite impressive city. And Li Tong lives there, and he used to work as a factory worker on the assembly line in a telephone factory. He lived in a small apartment with only 1 bedroom with his wife and his daughter. And the husband and wife slept in the bedroom, and their daughter slept in the living room on a fold-out couch. Sofá cama. Fold is plegar o doblar papel o tela, is to fold. También pliegues son folds, pliegues en la piel, for example, or folds. And he worked, and she slept on a fold-out couch, all right? Now every day, this is 3 years ago or 4 years ago, every day Li went to work on his bike. He went to work by bicycle, crossing Shanghai. It took him almost an hour every morning in the dark, because he left home at 5 o'clock in the morning. He got back at 3 o'clock. He worked the morning shift in the factory from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, 8 hours. With only 1 break of 15 minutes in the middle. He took the break at 12 o'clock, and he had a sandwich, usually a chicken sandwich, that his wife made the night before. And he went bicycling to work with his little brown paper bag with a sandwich in it, okay, and a thermos with milk, sometimes, and other times with simply water. And then he came back, and it took him an hour to go back home. So between travel and work, he spent 10 hours devoted to making telephones. And 3 years ago, he didn't speak English at all. Now he speaks English very, very well. And the reason I know him is because I heard his story through an Australian traveler, well, Australian businessman, an engineer, who had visited that factory, well, who visits that factory still periodically, because that factory is a supplier of the Australian telephone company on fixed telephones, because it's very cheap. The phones, they're very good quality and quite inexpensive, quite economical, con AL al final. Inexpensive es una forma neutra o forma diplomática de decir barato. Porque si dices cheap, si dices this microphone is cheap, this is a cheap microphone, many people understand that the quality is not the best necessarily. If I say this is an inexpensive microphone, well, you understand that it's a good microphone, and perhaps I found a good price for this microphone, okay? But it's not a cheap microphone, it's a good microphone, and it works. So this Australian engineer spoke to me about 2 years ago about this man who was simply a factory worker working on an assembly line, and he explained to me the situation. And we're going to continue with Jose Felix and Maria Jesus to unravel this story, unravel Maria Jesus, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Unravel was deshilvanar, you'd say, o
Yes.
hilar.
Hilar, I would say
Hilar
hilar.
la historia.
Yes.
Pero unravel is desenroscar, desenrollar. Do you say?
Yes.
You say desarrollar, but do you also say desenrollar?
Yes.
Okay, una historia que vas sacando.
Desenredar.
No, desenredar no está enredado. Okay? But nevertheless, let's continue. Tell Jose Felix to ask me if Lee Tong knew English 3 years ago.
Ask him if Lee Tom knew English 3 years ago.
Did Lee Tong know English 3 years ago?
No, he didn't. He didn't know anything. Tell him to ask me how long it took him to learn English.
Ask him how long it took him to learn English.
How long did it take him to learn English?
Took him 1 year. Tell him to ask me what level he reached.
Ask him what level he reached.
What level has he
Did.
reached?
No, ya lo alcanzó.
Ask him what level he reached.
Pasado simple. Ask me what level he reached.
What level he reached?
No, dime un verbo auxiliar.
Sorry, what level did he reach?
Reach.
Sorry. What level did he reach? Reach. Present.
Reach. Okay, con mucha che al final. Reach. All right. He reached an advanced level. An advanced level. Okay. Tell him to ask me why he decided to study English.
Ask him why he decided to study English.
Why did he decide to study English?
Because he was working in the factory. And two tall men from the United States, Canada, Australia, or England came. And there was a Chinese man with them. And the Chinese man was explaining the process of the assembly of the telephones. And Lee noticed, he knew that Chinese man. And he knew that that Chinese man was not better than Lee. But he knew he earned triple. And he didn't work in the factory. He was working up in the offices, not down in the factory. And he thought, and that Chinese man was speaking English. And Lee made the decision that day, I'm going to learn English. And tell him to ask me how he learned English.
Ask him how he learned English.
Learned.
How did he learn English?
Learn.
How did he learn English?
All right. Well, he started by going to a language school. All right. Tell him to ask me if I know what happened on the first day.
Ask him if he knows what happened in the first. On the first day.
Claro, in the first day, Maria Jesus.
Did he know what happened?
No, do you know? Si yo sé.
Sorry, do you know what happened on the first day?
Yes, I do.
What happened?
Good. What does he want to know?
He wants to know what happened on the first day.
Lee learned how to say his name
in English.
He learned how to say, my name is Lee. Okay. But he didn't know what he was saying. He was saying, blah, 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 Lee. All right. He was making noises. Tell him to ask me if Lee had problems at the beginning.
Ask him if Lee had problems at the beginning.
Did Lee have problems at the beginning?
Yes, he did. Tell him to ask me if he almost gave up.
Ask him if he almost gave up.
Did he almost get up?
Levantarse?
Sorry.
Casi.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'm lost. Sorry.
Tell him to ask me if he almost gave up.
Ask him if he almost gave up.
Did he almost give up?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Ladies and gentlemen, Lee Tong, my friend, he started learning English, and he was probably 31 years old. He had never heard a word or spoken a word of English, but he wanted to learn. So he went to a language school not far from his house, and he couldn't progress. He was having big problems. And then he almost gave up. He almost threw in the towel, okay? He almost abandoned the ship, okay? But he didn't. Darse por vencidos, to give up. And he didn't give up finally. Tell him to ask me who convinced Lee not to give up.
Ask him who convinced Lee not to give up.
Who convinced Lee not to give up? Who convinced Lee not to give up?
His daughter did. His 10-year-old daughter. Tell him to ask me what she said to him to convince him.
Ask him what she said to him to convince him.
What did she say him to convince him?
No se dice nunca en inglés say him. What did she say to him? Repeat.
What did she say to him to convince him?
Good. Valga la redundancia, eh? Okay. What did she tell him? Or what did she say to him to convince him? Well, she convinced him that he was perfectly capable of learning English.
Instead of starting from scratch.
Well, starting from scratch, no. But she opened her book from school, her English book, and together she taught her father the first 3 chapters in the book. Yeah. All right. Now, but she convinced her father. She said, Daddy, you can learn English. It's not so difficult. You understand?
Yeah.
And she convinced her father that he was perfectly capable of learning English. Ask me if Maria Jesus is perfectly capable of learning English.
Is Maria Jesus perfectly capable of learning English?
I'm not sure. I think so. She's perfectly capable of learning English. Ask me if I'm perfectly capable of learning another language.
Are you perfectly capable of learning?
Learning.
Learning another language.
Language. Yes, I am, but I'm not going to do it. I'm too busy. But if I could stop everything else, I think I could learn another language well.
And what language would you choose?
I would choose French, probably, or Italian. French or Italian, for sure. Or maybe Portuguese, you see? Because there are more people speaking Portuguese than people speaking French or Italian.
Yeah.
Really? Well, ask me what the population is of Portugal.
What is the population of Portugal?
I think it's about 12 million.
10
million. 10 million. Ask me what the Portugal. Ask me what the population is of Brazil.
What is the population of Brazil?
185 million. So between Brazil and Portugal, it's almost 200 million. Now, ask me what the population of France is.
What is the population of France?
I think it's around 65 million. And ask me how many people speak French outside of France.
How many people speak French outside France?
Outside of France, prefiero.
Outside of France.
I think another 65 million maybe, or 70. Or 100 million, perhaps. You have Morocco, Algeria, other French African countries, a few countries in the Far East, in Vietnam, some people speak French. But not that many. So I think there are more people on this planet speaking Portuguese than speaking French. And Italian, much of the big difference, okay? So maybe I would study Portuguese. Besides, I like the sound of Portuguese. Ask me if I like the sound of French.
Do you like the sound of French?
Oh, yes, I do. It's beautiful. And I speak some French. Ask me if I like the sound of Italian.
Do you like the sound of Italian?
Cultivated, cultured Italian, yes. I like it. Backstreet Italian, no. Do you understand Backstreet?
Yeah.
The little Backstreet Boys. Okay, the Backstreet Italian I don't like. All right, but I like educated Italian. All right, good.
And are American people in general too lazy to learn a foreign language?
No, they're not. They just don't need to. Learning a foreign language is intimately connected to need. If you don't need it, I don't even recommend learning a foreign language. I recommend you devote your energy to other things, not to learning a language. Because it's really, to learn a language in a vacuum, in un vacío, vacuum, is, for me, it's not a good dedication. It's not good to devote your time to that. It's a very good exercise for your mind, porque lo afila muchísimo. Pero no afilas tu mente con otro idioma si no tienes inminente una necesidad. Porque si no hay una necesidad, el deseo ardiente de aprenderlo no entra.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. So I don't recommend. And it's simply not necessary in the United States. 300 million people, and the United States is as the same size as from Europe, from the Moscow to Lisbon. It's just simply not necessary to learn a second language, although many people would like to, but they're not lazy. The American people are not lazy at all in learning languages. And many people speak some Spanish, many people. And many people speak good Spanish because they're from Mexico or Puerto Rico. But many English, normal Anglo-Saxon people speak Spanish, a certain intermediate level, yo quiero, etc. Okay, now tell him to ask me how Li Tong learned English.
Ask him how Li Tong learned English.
How did Liton learn English?
He used two strategies. Strategy number one was to continue attending English class. Tell him to ask me how many hours of class he received a week.
Ask him how many hours of class did he receive a week.
How many hours of class does he receive a week?
No, ya no va.
How many hours of class did he receive a week?
Good. He received 4 hours a week, Monday through Thursday. Okay, Monday to Thursday or Monday through Thursday. En inglés, Monday to Thursday es de lunes a jueves. Pero si quieres decir lunes a jueves, inclusive, que no es necesario, los americanos al menos decimos Monday through Thursday. Y se dice muchísimo. Monday through Friday, Monday through Thursday, atravesando todo el día de jueves, okay? 4 days a week, 4 hours a week. And tell him to ask me how long he attended that language school.
Ask him how long he attended that language school.
Lay. What's the first letter in the alphabet?
A. Language.
Good. Congratulations. Welcome to the English language. All right, language.
How long did he attend the language school?
Could you repeat, please?
How long did he attend the language school?
Language, okay. He attended the language school for 1 year. Yeah. And tell him to ask me what his other strategy was.
Ask him what was what the other strategy was.
What was the other strategy?
He spent 8 hours a day working on the assembly line. And he had headphones, earphones, and he spent 8 hours listening to English every day. Tell him to ask me how many hours my friend listened to the English language.
Ask him how many hours his friend
Listened.
to the English language.
Good.
How many hours do your friends
Did.
listen? Sorry, you're referring to the past. How many?
Of course, this is in the first year, remember.
Okay. How many hours did your friend listen
To
listen
English.
To English.
All right. He listened to English 8 hours a day for 200 days. 200 days. How many hours is that? 1,600 hours.
Yeah.
It's a lot of hours.
And does it work?
Of course it works. But at the same time, he was going to a language school and learning the structures. You understand? And the vocabulary. And he was not listening, he was working. And the sound of the language, 8 hours a day. Really, the sound of the language, 10 hours a day, because when he was riding his bicycle home or going to work in the morning, he was listening to English.
Mm-hmm.
All right? So he spent 10 hours a day in contact with a language. He wasn't necessarily listening, but the noise of the language, the music of the language was entering.
In your own consciousness.
In mine? No, in his.
In his.
In his self-conscious. And so he finally learned the language. And it became more and more familiar. After month number 3, it was starting to pass from being gibberish.
Yeah.
Gibberish is Quechua, que le sonaba Quechua. Slowly, every week, he was beginning to feel more familiar with the sounds and to discriminate sounds. You understand? To recognize sounds. Anda, me suena eso. It's. And then finally, after 6 months, 7 months, after 12 months, okay, 1 year, 10 hours a day, for 260 days, 10 hours a day, 2,600 hours. Venga, que dale.
Mm-hmm.
Music of the language coming in, so boom, he was at advanced level. He had a good level.
Then it's not too important, don't understand.
It's not too important not to understand. No, it's not. It's the music of the language. It's to familiarize your ear with the sound of the language and for the language to stop being a strange combination of sounds, to become a familiar combinations of sounds, even if you don't understand them. Your ear becomes familiarized to the music of the language, and it doesn't sound foreign anymore. Mm-hmm. It starts to sound familiar. It becomes a friend. And if at the same time you are improving your knowledge, you begin to consciously or unconsciously recognize combinations and connections and linkage. You understand?
Yeah.
In words. Okay? And then you begin to understand that pa'lante is para adelante and things like this. Okay?
Okay.
And that's the story of Li Tong. Ask me when the last time was I spoke to him.
When was the last time you spoke to him?
I spoke to him 3 weeks ago. Ask me if he came to Spain last month.
Did he come to Spain last month?
Month? ¿Qué es?
Month.
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 Monday, Monday. Can't trust that day. Monday, month. 1 month, 2 months. Is January a month or a week?
It's a month.
Is it the first month or the last month of the year?
It's the first month of the year.
What month is the last month of the year?
December is the last month of the year.
Of the year. And in Roman times, in los tiempos romanos, what was the first month of the year?
Julius? Julio?
July? No.
July?
No. De hecho, no existía antes que
yeah,
Julio
you're
César.
right.
March was the first month of the year. All right. So, and in January and February were added, okay? Ask me how much time we have left.
How much time do we have left?
We have 4 minutes left. Now, ask me if Lee uses his English now in his job.
Does Lee use his English in his job?
Yes,
now?
he does. Sometimes, not very often, but sometimes, with the Australian visitors. And ask me how much he earns a month.
How much does he earn?
Earn?
Earned a month.
Lee earns about 8,000 euros a month. Ask me if that's a good salary in Shanghai.
Is that a good salary in Shanghai?
It's not bad. It's not bad.
How much did you say?
8,000 euros. In yuans, okay? It's 8,000 euros. It's not bad. Ask me if he still lives in the same house.
Does he still live in the same house?
No, he doesn't. Tell Jose Felix to ask me where he lives.
Ask him where he lives.
Where does he live?
He lives in a larger apartment near the factory. Okay, near the factory. Tell him to ask me how many bedrooms there are in his new apartment.
Ask him how many bedrooms there are in his new apartment.
How many bedrooms are there in his new apartment?
There are 2 bedrooms in his new apartment. One for Lee and his wife, and another for their daughter. Okay? And tell him to ask me if his wife still sweeps and cleans the house every morning.
Ask him if his wife still sweeps and cleans the house every morning.
Does his wife still sweep and cleans house?
¿Qué house? The house.
The house. Sorry.
Every morning?
Every morning.
Yes, she does. Ask me if the family has a maid.
Has the family a maid?
And tell him to ask me.
Sorry, ask him if the family has a maid.
Does the family have a maid?
No, they don't. A maid. Do you understand a maid?
I don't know. What does it mean?
I don't know what it means.
What it means. So,
All right. Ask me what maid means.
what does it mean?
Ask me. No,
sorry.
ask me what maid means.
What does maid mean?
Good. It means asistenta.
Okay.
O criada. También significa moza. Moza. Tipo de moza o doncella, moza.
It's like a cleaning lady?
No, it's a cleaning lady nowadays, but in la Edad Media, es una moza del pueblo, the maid.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a maid is a criada o asistenta, a woman who comes to the house to clean or lives in the house. All right. So no, they don't have a maid. They don't have a maid. The mother still does the work. And tell them to ask me how old the daughter is now.
Ask him how old the daughter is now.
How old is the daughter now?
She's 13. All right. Tell him to ask me if the daughter speaks well.
Ask him if the daughter speaks well.
Does the daughter speak well?
Yes, she does. Ask her if she speaks as well as her father.
Ask him if she speaks as well as her father.
Does she speak as well as her father?
No, she doesn't. Her father communicates better. Maybe the daughter speaks better, but the father communicates better because the father is mature. He's 34 years old now, and the daughter's English is academic, only for school and to pass exams. The father's English is active for normal communication.
She's
And
a
so-
teenager.
Yeah, she's a teenager. Okay. Well, thank you very much for coming. It's been a pleasure today. I'm going to continue in a few minutes, but I have to say goodbye. Ladies and gentlemen, Jose Felix and Maria Jesus will be back another day probably as students. But in the meantime, it's you and me, and I will have another person here with me. Maybe one of the two. Maybe another student is waiting outside. And we'll continue, okay? All right. See you in a moment. Bye-bye.